Welcome back to the channel, and in this one we're going to kind of do a continuation on it. So in the previous video I drew this one using AutoCAD 2D, and we even created the isometric in the corner. Now in this video I'm going to create this in 3D AutoCAD, right? So we're going to do this in 3D AutoCAD, and remember that if you like seeing these videos done to a musical instead of all the instructions, and you just want to listen to music and even maybe turn the music off and probably look at it at 2x. That video is going to be available on my other channel, so if you want to check out videos like that, you're more than welcome to go to it. And the name of that channel is called AutoCAD Art. But in this one, let's jump into it and do this one using AutoCAD 3D. Okay, so this is the video that we created using 2D, and I'm kind of want to see how accurate I was on, creating some of these hidden lines and things of that nature. But let's go ahead and start a new drawing so we can complete this in AutoCAD 3D. So I'm just going to click the plus icon here to create a new drawing. And then once this loads up, I'm going to go ahead and change this over to AutoCAD 3D, right? So I'm just going to select the sprocket down here, or the settings, and then I'm going to choose 3D modeling. You can also use the 3D basic one. It's just going to be with a lot less icons. I like to prepare people just to go ahead and use the 3D modeling. All of the icons that you're going to need are going to be really on the home tab, and that's the reason why I prefer using this one over using the 3D basic. Alright, so let's go ahead and turn this off. Then we're going to do our normal stuff, which we turn off the grid. And then we turn our ortho on. It seems like it's running a little slow today. Okay, then I'm going to put my ortho on, which is located here, and then let's go ahead and see what my O-snaps that I have available. So those are going to be the ones that I'm going to use to create this. Okay, so we can almost do this just like we did in AutoCAD. If I create the top view, and I'm going to, if I kind of remember doing this throughout the process, and since I have this drawing open, you'll see that all I'm going to do is basically create this first part here. And if I wanted to, I can just copy and paste this onto my next drawing, and then I can go ahead and create the 3D. And I'm going to show you that in this video as well. So that's going to be one of those things that if you have something somewhere else, I'll show you how to also turn this 2D into a 3D. Okay? But we're going to draw it the regular way. So back on this one, we're going to go ahead and start creating what we need. I'm going to start off by creating a rectangle, just like we normally would do. And I'll click here. And it has a dimension that is 100 in the X direction, comma, 60 in the Y direction. So 100 by 60. Okay, next I'm going to go ahead and kind of create this corner here, right? So we have some basic dimensions that we're going to need to create this corner with. I'm going to go to offset, and I'm going to use a construction line offset as opposed to this offset. If I use this offset, I'm going to have to explode this rectangle. So therefore, I'm going to use the construction line offset. So I'm going to use construction line, then I'll use this offset option here, and then I have to give it the width of it, right? So how far do I want to go? I'm going to tell it I want to do 20. I'll go ahead and offset from here, going up, right? And then let's go ahead and hit escape. We want to go back to that command, and we want to offset this line going over at 40. We're at the same problem that we were running into before, right? So I can't offset the rectangle because the rectangle is a polyline. So once again, let's go to construction line, offset. Let's type in the number 40. Go ahead and hit enter. And then go ahead and offset this line going right across here. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and fillet this since I do know the radius of this already. So let's use the fillet command, and fillet is going to be located here. Go ahead and specify your radius, which in our case is going to be 10. And I'm just going to do a fillet here to here. And then I'm going to go back to that fillet command because I want to do a radius here, but I also want that to be on all of the corners. So I'm going to go fillet, radius. It should be already set to 10, so I'll just hit enter. And then I'm going to select the polyline option. So I'll go to polyline, and when I select the polyline, watch what happens. So you can see that all of the corners have that fillet on it. All right, let's use a trim command, which is here, and then I'll trim off the extra lines that are located here and here. Okay, let's go ahead and put our circles on the inside of here. And I'm going to use the circle command, right? And I do know the location of those. So it's going to be 10 up from this line, and it's going to be a distance of 10 going in from here, right? So I have one or two choices here. And I'm definitely going to show you the complicated way of doing this as opposed to the easier way. But I can go ahead and locate my UCS at that intersection, right? That's the easiest way of doing that. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I did that in the other video. So if you want to see that, you can go and watch the 2D video. Actually, I put it here, and then I was able to locate it. But I'm going to use a different method in this one. So I'll go to Circle, Center Diameter, and then I'm going to shift and right click and choose the word From. Okay, now I need to specify where do I want that from. Well, I want it from these two intersections of these lines. So I'm going to shift and right click again, and then I'll choose the word Intersection. Now it's asking me to give it an intersection, so I'm just going to select somewhere along this line. So click here, and then this line here, and now you have it located. So now it's at this point. You have to physically type in the at symbol, right? So I'm going to type in at 10, because I want to go 10 in the X direction, comma, 10 again, right? And it's going to go 10 in the Y direction. So once I hit enter, there it is. My circle is located. Last thing I need to do is go ahead and put in the diameter, which will be 10 as well. Okay, so real easy, some steps to go through. Simple method for using this one is just make sure you're looking at the command line, right? And I'll go through it one more time just so you can see it again. Let's go ahead and erase that, and then we're going to go through it one more time just so you can kind of get the hang of it. And I'll read the command line as I do this. So I'm going to go to Circle, Center Diameter. It's asking me right now, specify the center point of that circle. Well, that center circle point is here. I know the location of it. It's at this intersection. It's going to be 10 over and 10 up. So I'm going to shift and right click, and I'm going to choose From. So I want to tell it, where do I want to start this circle from? So when I select the From option, right now it's saying, hey, give me that base point that you want to reference to. Well, that base point is somewhere here. Therefore, I'm going to shift and right click and tell it to find the intersection between this line here. So I'll click that line and this line. Therefore, it put it here. Now AutoCAD says, hey, you're at this location. What do you want to do now? If I go ahead and hit enter now, it's going to place that circle at that intersection. But I don't want that. I'm at a from location. I'm going to tell it go from that location. And that's what the at symbol is. So when you type in at, it's going to say, hey, in relative to that point, what do you want to do now? So the at symbol is locked in. Tell it to go 10 units to the right, comma, and 10 units going up. And all I'm doing is looking at the UCS here, because remember, this shows me where all the positive directions are. So I'm going 10 units to the right, 10 units up. Once I hit enter, it should be located where I need it. And then I'll type in the diameter, which is going to be 10, right? So real simple and easy to use, as long as you read the command line and step through it. Okay, let's go ahead and copy this circle. So I'll go to copy, select my circle here, hit enter. I'm going to select a base point, and remember that I'm moving a distance. So if you're moving anything at a distance, base point is irrelevant. So I'll select here, and as long as I aim this direction, I will type in the distance that I need, which in our case will be 20, and then hit escape. Okay, so now I have this circle created, and now what I need to do is I need to go ahead and copy this to all of these locations, right? So let's go ahead and do that next. I'm going to use the mirror command to do it rather quickly. And let's see, the mirror command is located. It might be actually located in the drop down. It's the one that looks like the TP, and it's this one here. So I'll select mirror. I'm just going to put a window, so I'm going to single click here to the left of it and come right across and have all of that highlighted and do a left click here. So now you see that it selected these two circles and these two lines. Go ahead and hit enter. Use this midpoint, so click here, going right up to this midpoint. Hit enter. Okay, so now I have that one located. I want to use the mirror command again. So I will just hit enter on my keyboard. That takes me back to the mirror command, right? And now I want to use the previous options that I selected before. So I'm just going to type in P, enter, and it's going to select the previous selected stuff that I have, right? There are some other selection options that you have. You know, I could use last, and if I type in L, enter, you'll see that it'll grab the last thing that I selected. So that circle was the last thing that was picked in that solution, right? And I can keep going with that, right? I could try to add another L, but the easiest way would be to just do a window right around these objects here. Go ahead and hit enter. Or from that midpoint, going straight across to this midpoint. And hit enter, right? So now I have the shape that I need. Okay, so this is where we're going to start converting things, right? And this will be the exact same process as if I went to this drawing here and I have this drawing, and I'll show you that here. All I'm going to do is put a window around this. I'll do a Control-C on my keyboard. I'll come over to drawing 3, and this is where I created this drawing. Let me slide over a little bit, do a Control-V, and then click it here, right? The only things I have to do on this drawing is go ahead and get rid of all of these center marks, right? So that's one kind of quick way of doing things, that if you have something that you've already drawn, or maybe a vendor or someone sent you something and said, hey, can you make this into a 3D? If you copy and paste it in here, and the process is going to be exactly the same. So I can go ahead and erase this now because it's the exact same thing that I have located on this side, as you can see, right? So I have that as a polyline. I think that one is separated, but either way. Okay, let's go ahead and get rid of this. And now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and make each one of these into their own separate polylines. So that's going to be the key here. Each one of these that I'm going to create are going to have to be its own polyline, meaning that this one is already a polyline, so that's great. Circles are special. They're their own polylines, so you don't have to create polylines with circles. But these other shapes, I'm going to have a polyline in each one of those. The command that you're going to use to do this is going to be called the boundary command. And let's see if I remember where the boundary command is located. It should be one of these icons here. Yes. Let's see. Oh, there it is there. So it's going to be the one that looks like a square. So we can use the boundary command, and that's going to be our quick and easiest way of doing this. So I'll go to boundary. It's going to bring open a dialog box. And the reason why I can use this is that whenever it detects, it's going to create a polyline. So that's the key thing here. It's going to do the work for me. It's going to create that polyline. Now this island detection says that, hey, if it detects some islands on the inside of this, go ahead and create a boundary on that. And in our case, you see these circles, they're going to become polylines. I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to tell it, hey, don't worry about the islands. I'll deal with that, or they're already polylines. Okay, let's jump back to it. All I'm going to do is go to pick points. Now AutoCAD is going to switch over. It's telling me to select the internal points. I'm going to click here. And it says that it can, okay. Let me see what that does here in a second. All right, it seemed like it's selecting the other ones, which means that I have something kind of going on in this one. Oh, it wound up figuring it out. Okay, great. So all of these are now going to be polylines. Absolutely what I want it to happen, right? Once I hit the enter button, they're going to be polylines. All right, so what I can do with this now is that I only want to select the polylines. This is a polyline. This is a polyline, right? So I'm selecting, and I'm only selecting the ones that are highlighting as all as one. And then I can select all of my circles. And then I'll go ahead and move these, right? So I'm going to choose move, click here, and go up here. So now I'm just making sure I leave these lines behind. I don't want those to be part of my next part that I have to do. So I'll go ahead and delete these. All right. Next, let's start looking at this in an isometric. So once I select that corner, it gets flat. And then I'll go ahead and change this to a regular wireframe. Okay. With that being said, now I'm able to start creating stuff that I want to happen, right? So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and extrude this going down, right? The height that I'm going to do this is going to be 30 minus 10. And let's go ahead and put up the drawing so I can show you what I'm talking about. Well, it's a lot easier if I just click on this. So what's happening is that I'm located at this dotted line here. So that's where I'm at. What I want to do is I want to extrude from this point down, so you can see that I have a distance of 30. If I subtract the 10 from it, that's going to leave me that this distance from here to here have to be 20. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to extrude this block down to a height of 20. All right. So let's jump over here, and then we're going to choose the extrude command. I'll go ahead and select this polyline, hit enter. I'm going to come straight down, and I'm going to give it a distance, which is going to be our 20. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is I can move this up, right? So I got one or two choices. I can either extrude all of those going up, and then I'll have to move the circles, or I can move those profiles all up together. And what I'm meaning by that is that if I extrude these up, remember that these circles are going to be left behind. These circles go through your whole entire part. So I have a move gizmo here. Let's zoom out a little bit. I'm just going to put a window around all of this. I'm going to grab this move gizmo, which is here in the middle. I'm going to go up, and that distance that I'm going to give it should be 10. All right. Now let's take a look at what we have. Let's go ahead and extrude, and we can do all of this at once, right? So I can select each one of these profiles, and I'm not going to select the circles yet. Go ahead and hit enter, come down, and then I have to give it 10, but no more than 30, right? I mean, or no more than 20. No, I had it right the first time. So I got to give it a height of 10, but I can make sure that it's no more than 30. What I mean by that, if I type in 30 and hit enter, these parts can be overlapping these parts. And what I mean by that is that if I take this and make it to, let's see, shades of gray, you can see that these overlap each other. If we go ahead and use a union command, right, and I select this bottom block here, and with these blocks here as well, it doesn't matter if they're overlapping totally or by a little bit. Once I union them, they're all together anyway. So it doesn't matter. And you'll see that, oh, I accidentally hit subtract, I'm sorry. Let's go to union at the top. And I meant to go here and select all of these. And what I'm guessing is, well, not guessing, what I should see is that this line here should disappear. So once I hit enter, there we go. So now you can see that that shape is all joined together. So that height has to be anything, it can be 10 all the way to 30. So I gave it at its extreme maximum. As you can see, it was 30, but when we union those together, they all came to be the same. Okay, back to wireframe. What I'm going to do next is I need to extrude those circles down, right? So I'll go to extrude. Let's go ahead and put a window around all of this. And I just only have my circles highlighted. Go ahead and hit enter. Come straight down. Now this number has to be 30 or more. So if I type in a obscene number like 1,000, it'll send it down 1,000. It doesn't matter in this case because when I subtract it, all of this is touching nothing, so it'll subtract from nothing, which means that it will disappear. So if I go to subtract, and remember how subtract works, you select the object you want to keep first, go ahead and hit enter, and then I'm just going to put a window going right across here. So I'm going to do one single click here, go across, one single click here. It should select all of those, and then when I hit enter, it's going to subtract those. And now this 3D shape is actually created and done for us, right? So if I rotate this around, and then let's go ahead and put it in shades of gray, you can see that I created this, and it looks just like what I created on our 2D isometric here. All right, so did a wonderful job on that. We have that completed. Now we're ready to do the 2D drafting portion of it, right? So let's go ahead and jump over to that part. So the way that I'm going to do 2D drafting is that we're going to jump to the Layout tab 1. We'll go ahead and delete this line here. I'll go ahead and create a rectangle. Starting location, or lower left corner is what I like to think of it, is 0, 0. Hit enter. Upper right corner is going to be 11, 8.5. Let's go ahead and offset that. So I'll go to the offset command, give it a distance of 0.25. Hit enter. All right. And then from here, I'll go ahead and set my paper space to kind of match what my border is here. So the way that we do that, we can right click on Layout 1, go to Page Setup Manager, Modify, DWG to PDF. Once I select that, I'm going to choose ANSI Full Bleed, 11 by 8.5. I like to choose Window. And when I select the window, I'm going to select the endpoint here on this inside rectangle and click it to this one. Go ahead and hit the center plot. And then leave this at 1 to 1. And once I hit the OK button, it should automatically adjust to the paper size. Go ahead and hit close. All right. So now we're ready to start doing our dimensions and things of that nature. I'm just going to click this icon here that's called base. From model space, I'm giving it a second, and what it should do is start following my cursor around once it finds the three-dimensional shape. And look like it's almost there. And yeah, my computer may be running a little bit slower than yours. Okay, there we go. So that's going to be my front view. So I'm just going to do one left click here. Go ahead and hit enter. And then I'll do a left click up here. I'll do a left click over here. And then I'll also put a left click up here in the top corner. Now once I'm done, do a right click with your mouse and go ahead and hit enter. Okay, so now we have all of our views, and it looks like I was really correct on what I drew in the 2D one. So all of the hidden lines are matching up. Up here at the top, we can decide how we want this to look. So I'm just going to select it here. I'll go to edit view. Now if I want it to look like my AutoCAD one, in the drop down underneath hidden lines here, just tell it that you only want to see the visible lines. So if I do that, then I hit OK, it's going to look exactly like what we created when we did the 2D drawing, right? So you can see that all of this stuff can be done. It takes a little bit longer to do it, but it works just as easy. Okay. Let's go ahead and put our center marks on here next. So we can create a center layer, or we don't have to. And if you want to see me create center layers and all of that stuff, I would refer that you go back to that 2D drafting video. But in this one, I'll just make it really super quick because I'm kind of looking at the time of this video. So let's go ahead and kind of give you the rough version going through it, right? So if I go to the center exe, I'm just going to give it an extension of, no, I can't do 3 here because it's in paper space. I can actually leave it at 0.12. Let's go ahead and leave it there and see what happens. Let's switch over to annotate. And then I'm just going to go ahead and use the center line one here. Click that line there. And then that line. I'm just going to hit enter with my keyboard and keep right on going. Now normally I will, kind of inform you again that I would create layers for this. And that's kind of the better way of doing this. And we also can create layers later as well, but it's going to do a little bit more work of putting these on the right layers, but it can happen. Oh, forgot to hit enter first. Let's go ahead and hit enter. And all I'm doing is hitting the enter button to take me back to the center line command. That's all I'm doing on my keyboard. Okay, center marks. Let's go ahead and place them at these circles here. The good thing about the center mark command is that it just keeps going as long as you keep clicking. So that's one of those nice benefits of it. All right. So now we have all of our center lines on here and all of our center marks. Next, we can go ahead and set up our dimension style. So let's click the drop down here. Let's go ahead and choose the modify button. And now I'm going to wait for it. And I always like to start at the right tab and work my way to the left. So I'll start with the primary units. I'm just going to go ahead and suppress any trailing zeros. Underneath the fit tab, I'm going to let this sit at 1. I'm in the standard option. Underneath the text, I'm going to go ahead and make this a little smaller. And I think I put it at 0.125 in my 2D drawing of this one as well. And then underneath the symbols and arrows, I'll just go ahead and turn my center marks off since I went ahead and put them on now. Let's go ahead and hit OK and close. And at this point, we're ready to dimension, right? So we can go to dimension. I'm just going to use a linear. I'll click these 2 endpoints. Go ahead and place that dimension above it. Now remember that depending on which side you want your dimension to appear on, that's the side that you're going to click on last, right? So if I go to linear and I click this endpoint and then this endpoint, my dimension should come out on the right side, which it does. I'm just going to hit the enter button just to save us a little time here. So I'll go back to enter. And if I select this one, I'm going to select this one first, and then this one, and that's going to put my dimension on the left side, right? And they might actually overlap somewhere in here, so I'll give it a little space. Let's go ahead and keep putting dimensions on. And you can see that dimensioning is easy once you set up your dimension style. So most of these are just going to be linear dimensions, and all I'm doing is just simply hitting the enter button on my keyboard just to go ahead and place them on here, right? Likewise with the radial and the diametric dimensions. So radius dimension, click it here. A diameter dimension. Oh, looked like I forgot to put the center mark on that one, which is no problem. Let's go ahead and click center mark and click there. Okay, so that's all the dimensions for that. Let's go ahead and put a few more dimensions on here. Let's go back to the linear one. And I'm just placing my dimensions along here. Now, also, here's that other kind of neat thing about it, about dimensionings, and I purposely deleted that. If I go to the linear, and this is one continuous line going across, just hit the enter button, and you can see that now it gives you a selection box. So once I hit the selection box, it'll click, and it looks like that line was actually broken up. But it'll click that whole entire line there. Yep, so let me go ahead and erase that and put the linear one back. Yep, it looks like that line should be one continuous line, but apparently it's not. Let's do a linear, and I want that dimension to be on the right side, so therefore I'm going to start my dimension from that endpoint to this one. Okay, I'm going to do some dimensioning here as well, so I'm just going to go to linear. That endpoint going up. And with this one, it looks like it's one continuous. Let's try that one again. So let's go to linear. I'll hit the enter button, and then I'll click here. Yep, and I can go right across. So it took that whole line, and it says, hey, I can do that dimension. And we're just going to put a couple more dimensions on this, right? So we'll do a linear here. I'm going to throw that dimension to the left side. So I'll click that endpoint first, followed by this one. And I'll click this endpoint just to make sure everything is in line. Go back to linear. I'm going to make sure that this dimension falls to the right side. So therefore, I'm going to start this endpoint first to that one. Click on that endpoint, right? And I think that's about everything that I need. There are a couple of more dimensions I can put on here, but for what we need to show on this one, it's easy. And in the other video, I did show you another way of making all of these in front of there. So I would just skip to the dimensioning part on that other video because it's chaptered, and you can see me actually show you a shortcut way of putting those 8 times or 4 times or things of that nature on your drawing, right? So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and just remember that if you want to see this video like done to music or some of that nature, please go ahead and check out my other channel, and that one is called AutoCAD Art. So if you do a search for it, or I will try to make sure I pin it here in the description if that's something that you're interested in. Thank you for the ones who are subscribing and who are continuously looking at these videos. I really do appreciate it, and it is inspiring me to do more. All right, so I want to say thank you, and I want you to have a good evening, and until the next video.